Everybody, welcome to another Healthy Alternatives podcast. Today I'm going to give you instructions on the French green clay. We're going to talk about the French green clay, but I'm actually going to show you how to mix the French green clay. I get lots and lots of questions about the French green clay because it's not promoted in the United States and it's not supported in the United States. It's not approved by the FDA as being healthy to use internally, even though it's been approved by many countries around the world as safe for internal use, because they've used the French green clay to detox for centuries. I mean, centuries. So when I was overseas working on an environmental remediation project back in the day when I was a field engineer, we had contracts with the Polish government after Glasnost, and when the Soviet troops were pulling out of Eastern Europe after the wall came down, they literally pulled out and left all of their pollutants. Some of the army bases had large aqueduct pipes that were just piping environmental toxins into the streams. Probably one of the most toxic chemical that we had to deal with were the dry cleaning chemicals. But there was sewage, there were ammunition toxins, so many toxins that had been left behind when the Soviets abandoned their former bases. So that was when Lech Walesa had become the Prime Minister of Poland, or was it the President of Poland? And in those days, we were communicating with the local people and talking about the toxins and the way to set up remediation programs to get them cleaned up. And I learned that when Chernobyl melted down in the 1980s, that the Soviet government had shipped in through train cars loads and loads and loads of French green clay that had been mined out of France. They shipped that in and they raised the nuclear power plant under a mound of French green clay to contain the radiation. Well, of course, that fascinated me. It works in the environment. Yes, it does. It will attract the toxins and it will lock them down so that they do not spread, and then they can be removed. Healthfully, I was interested in how this worked when I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, which was actually just an aspartame reaction. And I was very intrigued because I did find out that they had ingested the French green clay internally in European countries for centuries, and that the French green clay was approved by the health and food organizations and agencies in the governments as safe for internal use. So I was over back in the United States after I had recovered from Graves' disease, and I used the French green clay to help sweep out the toxins from the aspartame that were making me sick. This was part of why my recovery happened so quickly, within 6 weeks. So I found a supplier of the French green clay who lived in France, and I started ordering the French green clay, and I put together my 10 steps to detoxification program, and the French green clay was numero uno in that program, number one. So I introduced the French green clay as a detoxing agent in the United States back in the 1990s. And I've been promoting its healthy benefits ever since. What I want to explain to you today is how to use it to your benefit. The French green clay is very, very healthy for you because not only does the clay attract toxins, go in and sweep up and collect those toxins, encapsulate them then within the clay, and then they can be excreted from the body, typically through your urine or your fecal waste. You can also, if you're taking the B3 niacin in the detox program, you can also sweat it out through your pores. So the French green clay is a really wonderful agent to remove toxins from the body. I can remember years and years ago, people had said, well, does it work on mercury? Because traditionally, medical doctors will tell you that it's impossible to remove mercury from the body. Well, yes, I have a before and after hair analysis of someone that was toxic in mercury. He did the French green clay for several weeks. We did a follow-up hair analysis and his mercury levels were almost gone. So I can tell you that I have the proof that it also removes mercury from your body. If you feel like you've been exposed to a toxin that you're no longer exposed to, when you do a French green clay detox, it's going to be a wonderful way to remove the residual of that toxic chemical out of your body organs. It's going to deposit within your fat. It's going to deposit within your organs. It can even deposit within the brain. The French green clay will remove it. It goes from head to toe. I've also discovered through case histories with my hair analysis clients that the French green clay can help remove microorganisms. The French green clay is just a natural way to remove all kinds of toxins from the body. And I need to explain to you why it is so natural and that it has been used by other animals throughout the wild. And if you stop and think about it, if you watch Natural Geographic videos or Animal Planet videos, you will see lions, tigers, jaguars. They will go to the edge of a stream, to the beaches of a stream, or outside of a cave, and they will eat the clay. Well, they're doing that because if they've eaten a rancid kill, they go to the clay beds and they eat the clay so that that will encapsulate the rancidity and they poop it out. Deer and elk will eat clay and nibble on rocks to get the nutrients to help keep their hooves and their antlers strong. And in Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, Bolivia, in the Andes Mountains where the macaws fly free, every afternoon, and they have some tourist events, so you can go as a tourist and witness this. The macaws will fly to the cliff sides, the clay cliff sides, like clockwork every afternoon, and they eat the clay because that also helps increase their beak strength and their bone strength, their flight wing bone strength, and it will detoxify them if they've eaten any rancid berries or anything toxic. So they do that daily to detox and cleanse their body. So when I was in Poland, I thought, okay, this is really awesome. And I remembered it when I was recovering from aspartame poisoning. And so I began using it. And now I recommend it. Now, my supplier in France provided a form of the French green clay that was approved by the French government. But during COVID, he closed his business. I have found other companies, and I have found a wonderful company out of France that does ship to the United States from Canada, but it will also ship worldwide. And you can contact my office at janethull.com to get the link to their website and to look at all of their products. But what I wanted to explain to you, the differences in the clays and why the French green clay is so special to me. The French green clay comes from ancient dried seabeds. And if you stop and think about all of the life in the sea, if you stop and think about all the nutrients that are in the seawater, sea vegetables, sea fish, how healthy they are for we humans, because we are saltwater beings. We do not drink salt water, we drink fresh water. But a tear Taste a tear. It's salty. Your sweat is salty. We are saltwater beings also. It's very important for us to make sure that we flush out our bodies with pure fresh water so that the saline and the salt doesn't solidify, calcify, and get hard in the body. But we are saltwater beings. So we depend on saltwater nutrients for health and nutrition. Chlorella, sea kelp, again, sea fish. They're very, very healthy for the thyroid, especially, but healthy for the body all around. If you have dry eye, it's a wonderful thing to take warm salt water, flush your eyes out with that, and it rehydrates your eye. If you're coming down with a cold or the flu, or if you have sinus problems and allergies, snuff it up through your nose. And the salt, it will balance the pH within your nasal cavities and will also disengage any germs or allergens that have gotten up into the sinuses. So salt water is wonderful. So the French green clay is good for that reason. It's also good because it has the vitamins, the minerals, and the trace elements that are found in the sea. And they're freeze-dried. They're dried up in nature. So it's extremely healthy for you to ingest because it will not only remove the toxins, but as it removes the toxins, it will replace those spaces with healthy nutrients, and it will do it naturally. Now there's different types of clays also. There is of the Illite clays. The French green clay is an Illite clay, Illite. The Illite clays are the clays that are safe to ingest and healthy to ingest. And you have red clays, white clays, pink clays, yellow clays, brown clays, and the green clay. And it's because the color is representing where the clay has been deposited over centuries or millennia, actually. So the red clays are going to be rich in iron oxide. And the red clays are very healthy if you have very dry skin or if you have skin issues. White clays are what we call kaolin or kaolinite clay. And these come from areas to where there's very few minerals and no sea minerals that had been deposited there once upon a time, but they're very pure because they have so much of the silica from quartz. And your yellow clays and your pink clays are usually a combination of the two. The pink clay is a combination of both the red clay and the white clay. They're all wonderful for your skin, which is why they use them, for masks in particularly. They're very good for under the eyes. They're just very good for skin. They're very good for rosacea, any type of skin condition that you may have. Acne, they're very good for that as well. But don't forget that they are very good to ingest. All right, I'm going to talk about why not to use bentonite clay here in just a minute, but I'm going to get to the demonstration. What you want to do with your clay is you want to take it on an empty stomach because it's like vacuuming the dust out of your house. It's best if you can just do it where the dust is easy to get to. So if you have toxins that are deposited within your fat cells or within your organs or even down at the tip of your toes, you're going to want the clay to be able to reach it without being obstructed. If you've eaten something, the grains, the fibers, the fats, whatever is in the food, the clay is going to begin digesting that and addressing that in your stomach. So you might not have anything left over out of what it's digested in your stomach to go in there and sweep out the rest of your body. So if you take the French green clay on an empty stomach, first thing before bed or first thing in the morning when you wake up, then it will have no obstructions and it'll be able to just rocket through your body from head to toe and get in there like a Dyson vacuum cleaner and start sweeping out the toxins. So what I recommend, and what most of the companies recommend as well, and it's tasteless. It's totally tasteless. It tastes maybe kind of weird, maybe like kaopectate or something like that. But you'll mix it at night, all right, and you'll let it sit overnight, and it makes this milky water, is what it's called, milk water. because the heavier elements are at the bottom. They've sieved down. The heavier pieces of the clay have sieved down, and that leaves you with, I'm trying to find a really good spot here where you can see it really good, with what they call the milky water, the milk water. Then you just drink that up. Now, this is what I do, but of course I'm hardcore, pretty impatient, and I'm a geologist anyway, so I've licked and touched my fair share of rocks and minerals out in the wild. But what I did is you take a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon, but really a half a teaspoon will do it. You use a wooden spoon. You don't want to use metal with the clay because the clay will begin to immediately react with the metal. So you'll use a wooden spoon. I put in a half a teaspoon of the clay in my little jar here. And you put in spring water. You can use distilled water. You can use any form of good drinking water. And you're going to mix it up, okay, with your wooden spoon. You're going to mix it up. And this is what I did when I let it sit overnight. And I don't know, yeah, you can probably tell. This is the milk water, and then this is what I just mixed. And so you can see how overnight it sieved itself down just to make the milk water. But this is what I go on and take. I go on and I just drink it. First thing in the morning when I wake up, when I'm putting my coffee or my tea on. And there you have it. There you have it. It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I will tell you, it oxygenates your body as well. As you're removing toxins from your body, it's going to leave your body open to have oxygen fill those spaces. So the toxins have been sitting in your organs, in your brain, in your toes, in your fat cells. And so when you remove them, then that leaves a void space where those toxins had been. And the clay will have removed the toxins. The green clay will have replaced it with many nutrients, minerals, and trace elements. And that allows more air, oxygen, to get inside of your tissues, which is also a very healthy thing. So you're going to wind up with more energy, more mental clarity. You're going to lose weight. Most people lose weight with the French green clay detox because it's removing the sludge and instead putting back the happy things, such as oxygen and healthy nutrients. So that's how you mix your French green clay, and that's when you take it. Now, if I do a hair analysis on you and I can see what toxins are in there, I can determine whether they're mercury, aluminum, tin, radiation. I can see uranium, thallium, thorium, lead. I can see levels of lead, arsenic, antimony, manganese. I can see how toxic you are, and I can determine by your health symptoms about how long you're going to need to do the French green clay to get the toxins out. Chemically, many of you may remember that some metals are heavier than other metals, such as aluminum is lighter than lead. Lead is heavier than thorium. So it depends upon what the metal is that you're trying to get out, on really about how long it's going to take to get it out. Mercury is a sneaky little bugger. The reason that they used mercury back in the 50s and 60s for filling your cavities in your teeth was because mercury has a really funky physical state. It's not a liquid and it's not a solid. It's in between. It's a gooey solid. It's a gooey liquid. And so it can go into the cracks and the crevices that are in your bones, in your teeth, in your body organs, in the diverticuli of your intestinal wall, actually. So it takes a little bit longer to get the mercury out because it's a sneaky booger, and it'll get into all of the cracks and crevices in your body. And so we've got to get deep, deep, deep down into that. But tin, for example, is very common because it's commonly found in hair dyes and hair products, permanents, bleaches, that kind of thing. It's also used in tin foil. It's used a lot in processed foods. And nickel is found in margarine. It's just fascinating to find where these metals are used that we actually eat and are exposed to. So it depends upon the toxic level of the metals that you're toxic in, but it also depends upon what the specific gravity and the weight of that metal is as well, on how long I think it's going to take to get out. For me, I live on a wildlife preserve. I live in the middle of a farm area, and I'm also on well water, even though I do have a well purification system up and going. So I detox pretty much all the time. But I will detox seriously for 2 to 3 weeks at the change of each season. So 4 times a year, I will detox for 3 to 4 weeks. And I will do my French green clay every morning when I wake up. And I absolutely can feel the difference. You really will be able to feel the difference when you do it. If you get burned out on it, just make sure that you do it for at least 2 weeks initially. You can take a break for a month, do it for 2 more weeks, do it 2 weeks a month, do it 1 week a month. Find a routine that you can get into to where you're going to mix your clay and drink your clay up. And do this to keep your body clean. It's a really wonderful detox agent. I make my own toothpaste with it as well. I mix the French green clay with virgin, organic, cold-pressed coconut oil. Olive oil works well too, because olive oil will actually whiten your teeth, but the coconut oil tastes really good, and it makes for a good toothpaste. And then I add sea salt, shake a little sea salt to taste. That gives you the scrubbing grit. And I actually put in Eden's liquid silica. I like Eden's liquid silica because that is one of the best restorations nutrients for bones, nerves, hair, skin, and nails. Eden's liquid silica. So I will put some of that in my toothpaste as well. And then I just mix it up to the texture. Actually, I just put it in a little plastic container, and I mix it, and then I shake it, and then open it up and see if it's the right texture, if it's the texture of what you would be squirting out of a toothpaste tube. But the company, the Argel company from France, the new company that I have found, they do make a toothpaste. They also make a clay soap. They make a clay shampoo. They have lots of wonderful clay products. But when I saw that they had the clay toothpaste, I thought, oh yeah, that's really cool. Okay. All right. So the last thing I'm going to say today to you is why I want you to avoid ingesting bentonite clay. It's very interesting, but not surprising, that in the United States, the FDA has approved bentonite for internal use. But they have never been approached really to approve the Eleite clays, the Montmorillonite clays, which is the green clay, or the kaolinite clay, which is the white clay. They have not approved that for food grade, and it's backwards. It's backwards. And you will find that in Europe, Eastern Europe, Germany, Italy, all over Europe, they will not ingest the bentonite clay because they know better. Bentonite clay was something that I used when I used to work oil rigs after college. As a geologist, I worked the oil rigs. And I live in Texas, so it was oil drilling in Texas. So let's say we're 1,000 feet down in the ground drilling for oil, and there's a break in the pipe, or there's a hole in the pipe because of very sharp rock as you're drilling down through the strata punctured part of the pipe, or maybe the joint in the pipe got loose and wore out. Okay, so you've got a hole in your pipe, you've got a leak in the pipe. Are you going to pull out a full 1,000 feet and replace that piece of pipe? Nope, not at all. What they would do when you're drilling for oil, you've got a very large hole that you're drilling, and then the pipe goes through that does not quite fill up that whole hole because you put water down the space in between the soil and the pipe, and that keeps the pipe from getting too hot because it does get very hot as you're drilling down there. So we would mix up bentonite clay and we would shoot it down through that water space between the pipe and the soil at the edge of the hole, and we would let it harden, and it would literally fill up and patch the hole. Bentonite clay is like cement. Bentonite clay hardens. You could make a body cast out of bentonite clay if you needed to. So why would you ingest a clay that hardens? It's going to harden in your body. It's going to harden in your stomach. It's going to harden in your intestinal wall. It's going to harden as it goes through your bladder and your kidneys. So ingesting bentonite clay in my book is not recommended based on the story that I just told you. You don't want it to dry up and harden inside of your body. The French green clay, and I'll show you what's at the bottom of this this jar, that's not going to harden. When it dries up, I'm going to be able to blow it off. It powders. So there's no way that that clay is going to get in and obstruct and block any of your body systems. So the Eleite clays, the French green clay is Montmorillonite clay. The white clay is kaolinite clay. And all of the other Eleite clays are the clays that you're going to want to ingest. So here's to your detox. Cheers to your French green clay cocktail. And you can see the difference here with what was left at the bottom of the milk clay and what was left when I mixed it up and drank it right away. Now, before I go, I will just tell you with what's left over on the bottom of your milk water, you can go on and put water in this jar, mix it up, and you can fertilize your plants with it. So don't waste it. I even try to give it to my dogs and my cat and put it in the dog bowl. I do have a couple of my dogs are pretty wise to it. Some of them will just lap it up and not care, and I've got some that'll go, ew, there's something in there, I'm not going to drink it. However, I will tell you that it's healthy for your animals. It's healthy for your plants. So don't waste this. Don't put it down the drain. Put water in it, mix it up, and fertilize that houseplant. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we will talk to you next week. Have a great day. Stay safe and well.